So now we're going to get into actual distracted driving, and it still sort of falls into the alert enable. If you're being distracted, you're not being alert, right? So, but we are going to move into the distracted driving section of the program. And, let's talk about some of the different types of distraction. I think everybody knows being on your phone is a distraction, texting and driving is a distraction. But it's really any activity that diverts the driver's attention from driving. So eating, or listening to music, or listening to a podcast, or bird watching while you're going down the road. If you're playing drive-by dendrology, that is a distraction. Not everybody plays that. Okay. But here are some of those things, eating and drinking, talking to passengers, grooming. We got back to some of those things that we were talking about earlier in the presentation, right? Reading, including maps, using a navigation system. And you're going to see later on that just because your hand's free doesn't mean that you're not distracted to some videos. I've seen some really weird stuff while I've been driving on the highway. So these are just a few things that we consider distracted driving. One of the things to remember is that texting and driving increases your chance of an accident by 23 times. You're 23 times more likely to be in an accident if you are texting and driving. For every 2 seconds out of 6 seconds that you take your eyes off the road, you increase your chance of an accident by 2 times. Every 2 seconds out of 6 seconds. 421,000 people are injured in distracted driving crashes each year. 330,000 accidents are caused by texting while driving, leading to severe injuries. 78% of all distracted drivers are distracted because they have been texting while driving. And that's why we're hammering texting and driving. 1 out of 4 car accidents in the United States is caused by texting and driving. Texting and driving is 6 times more likely to cause an accident than drunk driving. That's right, you've read that. 6 times more likely than drunk driving. And part of that, there's a couple things going on there, right? So part of that is, one, not everybody's drinking and driving, but pretty much everybody has a phone, right? Not everybody drinks, but pretty much everybody's got a phone. So that's part of it. And then I think the other part of it is we've gotten a real good message out about drinking and driving, and I think the younger generations that are beginning to drive and have just started out driving, have only been driving for a little while, have heard that message over and over and over and over and over again, and we're reducing the amount that we're drinking and driving. Texting and driving we're just now, over the last 5 years or so, trying to really hit that message hard. And the reason that you hear it all the time, even almost more than drunk driving, is because it causes 6 times more accidents than drunk driving. There are basically 3 different types of distracted driving. The first one is visual. So you're looking at something other than the roadway, a map, a book, a bird outside the car windows, whatever it may be, something other than the road that you're looking at. Physical, that means you're doing something that's taking your attention off of the roadway. So you may look down to change the radio station. You might look for a pen. Something of that nature would be a physical distraction. Eating would be a physical distraction. Cognitive distraction is when you're thinking about something and you're not paying attention to the driving because you're deep in thought. And this is where, the parents forget about the kid. They forget about to drop the child off at daycare because they're thinking about something else, and they go on autopilot, and they just go to work instead of dropping off the child at work or at the daycare. So that's sort of like the cognitive issue. You're thinking about what you got to do at work. You're thinking about, how you're going to get your kids to baseball practice, whatever it is, something other than driving that you're thinking about. And why are phones so bad is because phones do all 3 of those things. You're looking at your phone instead of the roadway. you're physically typing in a message when you're texting, and you're thinking about what you just read and how to respond. So you're doing all three of those things at the same time, and that's one of the reasons that texting and driving is so dangerous. We're going to watch this video on distracted driving, and it's a research-driven piece, and I really love that because it really is science behind distracted driving and texting and driving. It's a little bit long, but you have the benefit of not having to listen to me talk for, I don't know, roughly 8 minutes. It's a really great video. Pay attention to some of those things going on.
Think you know all about distracted driving? Think again. Your eyes are on the road, your hands on the wheel, but your brain isn't geared on driving. So when you're looking at something straight in front of you, you should be able to see it, but you don't. It's just like having tunnel vision behind the wheel. It's because you are cognitively distracted. AAA and the AAA Foundation for Traffic Safety partnered with mental distraction expert Dr. David Strayer and his team at the University of Utah to undertake a landmark research project that challenges the current mindset about distracted driving. Building upon previous visual and manual distraction research and 5 decades of aviation psychology looking at pilot distraction, this groundbreaking study focuses on mental distractions, also known as cognitive distraction. Using brain-based metrics, driving simulators, and a first-of-its-kind instrumented vehicle, participants were studied as they engaged in various non-driving behaviors, from listening to the radio or talking on a mobile phone to using voice-activated dashboard apps. With these findings, researchers developed a ranking order for distraction similar to the 5-category rating system used for hurricanes. The study offers evidence that you're not necessarily safer just because your eyes are on the road and your hands on the wheel if your brain isn't geared on driving.
When you're driving down the road, the world is full of all of this visual information, and we have this illusion that we're attending to everything.
People drive thousands of miles every day. We're behind the wheel for hours. And a lot of times we try and alleviate boredom by trying to do all these other kinds of activities. As a consequence of that, we don't actually give driving due diligence in terms of what our responsibilities are to operate a very heavy, expensive piece of equipment without causing harm.
Yeah, I consider myself a good driver. I mean, I don't know if other people do, but I do.
Yes, I would consider myself a good driver. I'd have the music up. I'd be like, oh yeah, I got this, guys. I know the roads. I know where I'm at. That's fine.
People don't even know if they're distracted or not.
Most people can't be above average drivers. It's just statistically impossible.
So there's this notion that if our eyes are on the road and our hands are on the wheel, then we're safe drivers. So we wanted to kind of challenge that notion and begin to explore that notion.
The most significant thing about this research is that it focuses specifically on cognitive distraction, which is often ignored.
It's the types of attention diversions that are all in your head.
You're looking at it, you're looking straight ahead. You should be able to see it, but you're not.
Sometimes I know that I get caught off guard.
My last speeding ticket was in school zone.
I'm too close to the car in front of me, or I didn't see the red light coming.
So I've gotten in a couple fender benders, and I had a couple friends in the car.
It's kind of hard to say. I guess we're all kind of distracted.
The research team used a multitude of measures to unlock the secret to what really happens inside the brain of a driver who is cognitively distracted.
Okay, so this is our participant, Josh. He's going to be getting an EEG cap on him today.
Using a special EEG-configured skull cap with electrodes, the participant's brain activity was analyzed to determine mental focus levels.
And then go ahead and with your eyes, I want you to look left and right. These are your eye channels, and we can tell when you start to not scan anymore as you're driving and as you become more distracted.
Cameras mounted inside the vehicle were used to test the ability to see hazards in the driving environment by tracking eye and head movement.
So right now I'm getting that light task up and started here.
This light task, a state-of-the-art detection response task, or DRT, was utilized to record reaction time. Drivers were to ignore the red light and then trigger a switch when presented with the green light.
And a horrible scene met his eyes.
But what we're doing in this study that's unique is we're taking 8 different tasks and we're measuring driver behavior, driver performance while people are doing these very different tasks in a way that hasn't been done before.
+4 = 8.
when we're doing the studies, if the green light comes on and people don't respond to it because they haven't seen it, that's a potential hazard.
It's really kind of a surrogate for the types of visual information that people are missing all the time in the driving environment.
Yeah, like last night I was at the park, you know?
Just to let you know, you did miss a couple of the lights, just even sitting here driving, only listening to an audiobook.
When people engage in more and more difficult tasks, that they tend to miss more and more of those lights.
It could easily be a pedestrian, it could be another car, and so those misses are extremely problematic.
Rather than trying to anticipate the environment, they may not scan for the threat of a pedestrian in a crosswalk, but respond when that pedestrian does appear, if they do indeed see that pedestrian.
And we thought, let's just try and develop a system that's very intuitive and to understand about how severe something is. People are familiar with a Category 5 hurricane. They know that's a real high level of destructive force. Likewise, a Category 5 level of distraction is something that really has a lot of hazards.
Times 4 minus 5 equals 18.
Yes. Oh, there's a stop sign. Sorry, guys.
Okay. Wait for them to go.
Okay,
so what we have here on
okay.
screen is you can see her horizontal eye movements here. And when she's driving straight, she's not scanning as much as when she's doing single task driving.
Wait.
This is a great picture. Reply to this email to comment.
Reply. Thanks, Tyler. It was so much fun. We'll definitely have to do it again. Send. Next message.
We found that interacting with the speech-to-text system delayed response time to the DRT device more than any of the other conditions.
I think it suggests that trying to understand cognitive distraction really does require kind of a scientific effort, and that just using intuitions isn't necessarily sufficient.
Well, after this experience, my thoughts on being preoccupied and distracted while driving have completely skyrocketed. Yeah, I kind of wish I didn't know about the brain activity with that, just because I thought I was a good driver. And then getting in that car and actually realizing how much I wasn't paying attention when I was trying that was a little bit scary.
There's not really a difference in I'm making that many mistakes when I think that I'm competent in what I'm doing, then I'm assuming most people will do the same thing. So it's got to be a dangerous situation.
To the extent that you think distracted driving is a problem now, we expect that it's likely to get much worse with the kinds of things that are coming down the road, so to speak. The science will also help guide some public policy so that we don't design technology that goes into cars that would be unsafe to use. I'm hopeful that as this dialogue progresses, we start to actually say that, you know what, we need to reel in some of these behaviors that are just unsafe and not become totally driven by whatever device is ringing or shining or kind of trying to compete with attention. Some combination of legislation, education, and personal responsibility is really what's necessary in order to really get people to have a safe driving culture.
So I think that was a really great video, and it was eye-opening for me. I think that that was a really great video, and it had a few things in there that were like a little eye-opening for me. You know, I talked about earlier how, you know, you may be a good driver, but our visitors may not be. And it's sort of highlighted in that where all of them said that they were good drivers, but then, you know, you hear them say, oh, I got a speeding ticket in a school zone, and I had multiple accidents with my friends in the car, and oh yeah, I got this, I'm, you know, messing with the stereo or whatever. So, you know, while they all thought they were good drivers, they all did poorly in some areas of the driving and being distracted. Probably the biggest thing for me that I took out of that was, you know, I got a new car, and it's the first time that I have a system in there that hooks to my phone, so I you know, I don't have to actually touch my phone to make a call or to text somebody. And I thought that made me safe. And actually, that was one of the higher things next to actually holding the device that caused distraction. Even though your hands are on the steering wheel and your eyes are supposedly on the road, you're cognitively thinking about, how do I make that nav system or that interactive system work? I got to say the right words to get to the right task, and then I got to think of the text that I'm going to send to that person, or who am I going to call? I'm having that discussion on the phone, even though I'm not holding the phone. I'm thinking about that discussion rather than the road, and that was a category 3, and that was higher than a lot of the other things. Audiobook. I love an audiobook. It makes the time go by really fast while you're on long trips. You know why that is? Because you're not thinking about your driving. You're thinking about the book and the story. So, this was a really eye-opening thing, and there's really no such thing as not being distracted. You have distractions, so let's not add to them by being on your phone or eating or doing some of those other things while you're driving. So we talked about this. Why are the activities like texting and driving so dangerous? It's because it's all 3 types of distracted driving. It's the visual, physical, and cognitive wrapped up into one. So that's why that is so bad and why it's such a big problem. The next set of statistics kind of bring up another interesting point. So right now, almost 88% of people believe that distracted driving is a bigger problem today than it has been in past years. Well, that makes sense, right? And then distracted driving outpaced all other issues as a growing concern. So 88% of the people say that it was a bigger problem than it was before, and it's the most problem that everybody is the most concerned about. So 75% of traffic congestion, 68% say it's aggressive drivers, 54% drivers say it's using drugs, and then 43% say drunk driving. So drunk driving is perceived as not that big of a problem anymore, but the biggest one is distracted driving at 88%. So in the past month, 60% of the drivers talked on a hands-free device. 49 talked on a handheld phone. And drivers are more accepting of hands-free use than cell phone use. So 69% of the drivers say that it's okay to use a non-handheld device. But I was telling, as we learned, that's still higher than some of the other things, higher risk than some of the other things, where only 25% said it was okay to use a handheld device. More drivers texting or emailing while driving as a serious threat. So 96% of the people say that texting is a bigger issue than talking on your cell phone. 88% people say that they support legislation against reading or typing or sending a message or email on your phone. 73% of the drivers support having a law against handheld cell phone while driving. But in the last 30 days, 45% of the drivers have read a text message or an email while driving. So 80% of the drivers say that it's not a good idea and that it's a problem and support laws against it, yet 45% said they've done it in the last 30 days. It's one of those situations where, well, I'm a good driver and I'm good at it, I can do it and you can't. And that's really not the case. That's a trap. 35% of the drivers typed or sent a text message or email while driving in the last 30 days. So it's one of those where I can do it, but nobody else can. And that type of attitude is going to make it a problem to reduce the amount of distracted driving accidents that we have in the United States. They have that they can't, but I can attitude. And that is a big, big problem. So this video, it's a little bit long, but it drives home a really good point, and it really highlights the dangers and the impacts and the consequences of texting and driving.
I just remember sitting at home thinking to myself, it's like, I have no one. My friends were there for me at first, but after a while, they weren't.
I looked up on her Facebook page, and she said on there, can anybody please hang out with me today? I don't have any friends.
Before the car accident, the things I did in high school with my friends were, just go to high school games and everything. I just remember sitting at home thinking to myself, it's like, I have no one. My friends were there for me at first, but after a while, they weren't.
I looked up on her Facebook page, and she said on there, "Can anybody please hang out with me today? I don't have any friends."
Before the car accident, the things I did in high school with my friends were, just go to the high school games and everything. Every weekend go to a party, go bowling. I was a good student. I was a role model. I was like a popular girl in high school, so I used to model.
My main worry for Liz as a parent before she started driving was the typical teenage things, the drugs and the alcohol and, being safe and hanging around the right kind of kids and keeping her grades up. I did not think that Liz was connected to her mobile phone. I didn't realize that she loved her phone as much as she did.
I used my cell phone every second, every minute, every hour. Like, if I didn't have it, I would freak out because I couldn't connect with my friends. I couldn't connect with anyone. Couldn't connect with social media or anything. If I didn't have my cell phone, I felt lonely.
I would ask her all the time, "Liz, do you text and drive?" And she said, "No, Mom, I swear I don't. Don't worry, I don't use my phone when I'm behind the wheel."
I ignored these warnings about texting while driving because everyone else was doing it, so I thought it was okay. I thought I was invincible, but clearly, I was completely wrong.
I was getting ready for work, and then 12 hours later, I'm in ICU staring at my daughter, who's bald, and tubes running in and out of her body, and it's just overwhelming devastation over a stupid text.
I was alone. Everyone was away at college. I wasn't. I couldn't drive. I couldn't go to college. The consequences of my life now after the car accident is the fact that I'm blind in one eye now. I cannot smell. I cannot hear that very good because a bone broke in half and covered my eardrum. I can't create tears because both my tear ducts got damaged, and I can't put my body to sleep naturally. I take medicine and go to sleep. The hardest part about my life after the car accident was the fact that I was alone. Everyone was away at college.
So that was pretty impactful. A couple things that I think about is, she said, I thought it was okay because everybody else was doing it. And if you have kids, know that your kids are watching you, and they're going to emulate you. You may say, hey, don't text and drive, but if you're sitting there texting and driving, then your kids are going to text and drive too when they get the chance. And I think this is a really good time to point out that most phones now have a function on there where you can turn off your notifications while you're driving. And some of it is even when the phone recognizes the fact that you're driving through the GPS or what have you, you can actually set it so it doesn't even notify you that you got a call or that you got a text. So you're not even tempted to grab the phone and look at the text, read the text, answer the phone, and it'll send a message to the person that basically says, hey, I'm driving right now. I'm not going to answer the phone. I'll get back to you as soon as I'm done driving. And I think that that's a really good way to reduce the temptation to text and drive or use your phone while you're driving. Okay, we're going to switch topics again to, this time we're going to talk about aggressive driving. This is a topic that I want to include into the program, although it is not something that we deal with, I think, on a regular basis at Metro Parks, especially, from our employee side of things. We don't see employees engaging in road rage or aggressive driving, but it is something that, you might encounter as an employee, and it's something that, we need to talk about. And then in addition, this defensive driving program isn't just for at work, it's also can be used in your personal life. And I think there's some things in aggressive driving that we may find in ourselves. Some of the things that we're talking about, we may find ourselves doing from time to time. And we hope that, you know, some of the things that we talk about will help you deal with those things. So first, let's talk about what aggressive driving is. And the National Safety Council has an excellent definition, which I love a lot, and that is to drive in a way to impose your will on others. I love it, and it's just a great explanation of what aggressive driving is. And there are lots of different ways that can be expressed. One is excessive speed. And a lot of our aggressive driving problems start with excessive speed. And remember, several slides back, we talked about how speed is a problem in Columbus in particular. In the Columbus hotspots of traffic, speed is a problem. So speed can lead to aggressive driving and road rage type of incidents. Frequent and unsafe lane changes is another way that you're imposing your will on others. And then tailgating, trying to get that car to move out of the way because they're not going fast enough. And the reality is there's probably a car in front of them that isn't going fast, so they can't go any faster than the car in front of them, but you're going to tailgate them anyways, right? Aggressive horn use, nobody likes to get honked at regardless of whether you were doing something wrong or not. We immediately get defensive when somebody honks the horn at us. And then failure to yield the right of way. So, whether this is at a stop sign and somebody goes before you and, they're not following the rules and, that gets you upset, or, they could be cutting you off at this point too. Could be considered failure to yield the right of way. Disregard of traffic control devices, so merge signs, I'm talking to you, the one that waits to the last minute to merge over, or more importantly, the one that's not going to let anybody merge over, and you're going to be millimeters away from the bumper in front of you just so you won't let that person merge in. Either way, that's part of aggressive driving. And then verbal and physical gestures, yelling at somebody, flipping them off, those types of things would be falling under the aggressive driving category. And this one is one of my favorites. That's impeding traffic. So you're going to drive aggressively through passive aggression. So you're passive aggressively driving aggressive. So you're going to be in the slow lane, in the fast lane, all the way on the left side, doing the speed limit when everybody else wants to go faster than the speed limit. But you're going to say, hey, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm following the law. I have the right to be here, which you do. But at the same time, if there's people that want to go faster, just move out of their way, right? Don't be that passive-aggressive driver. Now, the next slide we're actually going to watch a video from Denver, and that is, it's from a news story about aggressive driving, and it's a little cheesy, not going to lie. There's some titles and some phrases that they use in there to kind of make it edgy for TV, but it has a lot of good information, and it has an assorted clips of aggressive driving and road rage incidents, and I think it really drives home the point. So let's go ahead and give that a watch.
We all have it in us, even if we don't know exactly where it is. A limit, a breaking point, a dark place where civilization ends and animal instinct takes over. And there may be no faster way to get there than right here, on the roadways of America at the intersection of velocity and violence.
We have 2 victims here.
You've seen the stories leading your local news.
Another case of road rage.
And polluting YouTube. What feels like a daily diet of road rage reports. Just last week, this shocking video of an incident on a California freeway leading to a multi-car crash.
Call 911, Chris.
Nearly half of all drivers surveyed have experienced some form of road rage. Here in Denver, the Mile High City, drivers have hit new lows. Local officials officials reporting deadly traffic crashes have been slowly creeping up for several years.
We know you're fed up. So are we.
We came to see for ourselves. It didn't take long for us to find it. Rocky Mountain Rage.
Golly, that guy. He was like almost in our lane.
You want reasons? Look around. The city's rush hour turns freeways into ant farms. It's a stop-and-go sea of brake lights.
Yeah, it's not moving up there.
What typically should be a 30-minute commute can take nearly an hour and a half, enough to turn any driver into a ticking time bomb.
I was surprised at how bad the traffic is in Denver.
It's heavy, it's crowded, and it's aggressive.
Captain Jeff Goodwin of the Colorado State Patrol is fighting the uphill battle against an army of hot-tempered motorists.
Don't touch me!
There is that group of individuals that get up helter-skelter every morning. They're never on time. So now they're running late and they've got to make up that time. So how do they do it? They do it by pushing people out of the way, cutting them off, changing from the inside left lane all the way to the exit ramp right as they get there.
Goodwin believes he's pinpointed the root of the problem. With more than 100,000 people transplanting to Denver every year, it's as simple as too many metal machines, not enough pavement.
I used to think it was something like people cutting you off. But you know, one of the things that people really get angry about, if somebody honks the horn at you because you've sat too long at a light, I think they literally go from the Dr. Jekyll to Mr. Hyde.
Around the country, it's not just gangbangers and street thugs mixing it up. It could be any of us. Take a look at these guys in business attire doing the WWE SmackDown. We showed the good Captain Goodwin some examples of bad behavior, and he provided us some potentially life-saving road rules to help you. Rule number 1, don't make eye contact.
This motorist is out of control. And this victim is doing all the right things.
Just stare ahead, don't engage.
Right. Yeah, the minute you engage, who knows where this goes?
Rule number 2, never approach the window.
All right, wow, okay. This is more than over the top because now you have a gun involved.
So you're gonna pull your gun out? What kind of...
You never know who's packing heat.
Exactly.
Is approaching someone's window ever a good idea?
Never do it.
And most important, rule number 3, you don't always have to win.
Looks like it's gonna be over.
But as we see in this case from Houston, the parties involved just can't help themselves.
And here we go. There you go.
I mean, now they're at full-blown fist fight.
Right, this is what happens. It gets worse. The longer this goes, the worse it's going to get.
It looks like they just need to win the argument.
That's what it is.
It was 4:15 when we hit the road with Goodwin and his team. They prowled the interstate looking for bad behavior.
We're looking for aggressive drivers.
Triggers. Which often lead to the road rage we see on the news.
This is a 75 mile.
Well, we're doing 17 and a 75 at rush hour.
I got a lady who was texting if you want to pull her over.
Within minutes, Goodwin's team has spotted a common breed, a texter at the wheel. Goodwin says distracted driving, the #1 offense that sends drivers into road rage.
And how does that end up leading to road rage?
Well, when she's texting, she's not paying attention to everybody else out here.
Next, we cross paths with a Leadfoot speedster, the deadliest kind of aggressive driver.
I could see him in the rearview mirror weaving in and out. He was trying to find that opening.
And that's when people get mad.
Right.
It was now 5:45, the road rage witching hour.
Yeah, we're pulling out.
Okay, so I think we can end it there. It goes on for a few more minutes and really just kind of more of the same. There's a few things that I think we can take out of that. Notice that he said the same thing that I did, right? There's a few people, there's always people that wake up in helter-skelter and try to make it up by imposing their will on others, pushing them out of the way by tailgating or weaving in and out of traffic. The other thing that he says that I really like is that you don't have to win. And I think so often we think about, or we feel like, hey, it's an injustice. They've done an injustice to me and I've got to win. Well, like Jerry Strozeneiter likes to say, winning should be making it home safe, not if you kept somebody from merging in on a traffic lane, or going faster than the person behind you, or whatever it is. Winning it, that's not winning. Winning is getting home safe to your family. So if you think of it that way, I think road rage and aggressive driving kind of goes out the window. I also like what do you do, and this is why I think it's important for us to be talking about this. You may encounter that while you're driving out on the road. Somebody approaches the window or yelling at you. Just ignore it. Don't engage, right? Look straight ahead, don't engage. Again, I don't think that we're gonna end up getting involved in too many of these things, but there is that possibility, and we just wanted to provide you with a few things and have a short discussion about it. We're going to watch one more video about this, and then we're going to move on to a different topic.
Hey! What? Dude, slow down. You don't act like this in real life. Why would you do it behind the wheel? What? Minnesota law enforcement agencies are on the lookout for aggressive drivers. You could be fined or possibly lose your license. Are you that guy? Learn how to deal with aggressive driving at mndot.gov/aggressive driving.
Hey, come on, can't you go any faster?
So I love that last commercial because, earlier when we saw that accident, and I talked about, sometimes I feel like we don't remember that there's other people driving that vehicle, that there's other human beings involved in that. I really feel like that happens in the aggressive driving and road rage type of incidents, and we would never act like that guy did in line at the coffee shop, but we sometimes have no problem doing that in the defensive driving arena. I also think that this is one area where we also have, like the texting and driving I talked about, I can do it, but they can't. And I feel like this happens a lot in the aggressive driving too. Aggressive drivers tend to point out everybody else's aggressive driving and the problems with their driving, but they're not looking in the mirror at their own driving. And there's been plenty of times where I've been with people driving that are complaining about something some other driver did, but just 2 miles prior, that driver was doing the same thing, but they didn't see a problem with it then, but they do when it's another driver. So, what we want to do now is talk about some steps to avoid aggressive driving. Don't drive angry, upset, or tired. You lose patience, and if you're any of those three things, then your patience is already worn thin. Find alternate routes to avoid congestion. I would rather drive 5 miles out of my way than sit for 10 minutes in traffic if I can avoid that. So if you don't like sitting in traffic, then try to find an alternate route. If it doesn't bother you, then it shouldn't bother you. Call ahead if you're going to be late to reduce stress. So if you know you're going to be late, or there's potential that you're going to be late, instead of worrying about how late you're going to be, just let those people know that you're going to be late. The other thing is, leave early. If you know there's going to be traffic, then leave early. Prepare to leave extra time so that way you don't have the need to speed. And then take the high road. Aggressive driving begets aggressive driving. So if you start driving aggressively, then somebody else is going to drive aggressively, and then it's just a back and forth trying to one-up each other. It's sort of that I've got to win attitude, and it's the I'm going to get the last word in on the argument, and you end up arguing about stuff that doesn't even matter anymore, or in this case you're just driving like an idiot to drive like an idiot, and it doesn't help the situation. Reflect, and why am I getting angry? Why did that bother me? Is it really that big of a deal, or I'm getting angry at something else? reframe. What can I do to help me maintain control of me? I can't control what other people do, but I can control what I do. And that's part of that taking the high road thing. Like, I can't control if that other person is a jerk, but I don't have to be a jerk. And just because they cut me off or they're now ahead of me does not make me a loser, right? I didn't lose the game because I'm going to make it home safely. And then refocus. Think about something other than what's causing you stress to help reduce that amount of stress. I think one way to avoid aggressive driving is to be polite and courteous. And I think it goes a long way to let somebody in. If it's not going to cause you any problems or a traffic accident, then let that person that's waiting to turn right at the traffic light out of the gas station, then let them out. Be nice and courteous. Be polite. We're often quick to recognize faults or bad behaviors of others, but not in ourselves. And that gets back to that. I've seen drivers complain about the same things that they were just doing. So if you're complaining about a driver, then I hope that you're reflecting and not doing those same things yourself. And remember, you can only control your behavior, not someone else's. So don't lose control. Stay in control. All right, now we're going to get into some just general miscellaneous guidelines. So drive with your headlights on, even if it's daylight out, because you are 4 times more visible to others. And I don't know about you, for the longest time, I've been trying to figure out how come people's headlights are on, but their brake lights are not, or their rear lights are not at nighttime. Well, it's because they have their daytime driving lights on. So if you have a new car, and my new car, that's the first time I've had automatic daytime driving lights. I have a switch on my car that can be automatic. So when it's daylight, the daylight running lights are on. When it's nighttime, the nighttime lights are on. If you're like some other people I know that need to be a little bit more in control and you want to tell your car when to put the proper lights on, that's great. Just make sure you know what switch does what or what setting does what, so that you're actually driving with all your lights on instead of just your daytime running lights, which don't have the brake light, not the brake lights, but the rear red lights on during the nighttime. Does that make sense? If you leave it on daytime, those lights don't show up. So make sure you know how to change it from daytime running lights to nighttime lights. Expect other drivers to make mistakes. Anticipate. And I really think that that's a key part of defensive driving, is just anticipate that everybody else is a bad driver and they're going to make mistakes. Anticipate what's going to happen in this situation. I can't say this one enough. Don't drive with anything on the dashboard. We've had 2 accidents now in the Park District where we've had items on the dashboard. We go to make a left-hand turn or a right-hand turn, and the dashboard, the clipboard slides from the right side of the car to the left side of the car, bounces off the A-pillar, and then gets jammed between the A-pillar and the steering wheel, and now the steering wheel is locked into a right-hand turn, and the car just keeps turning and hits a telephone pole or a tree. You know, the first time I saw that happen, I thought, oh, this is a fluke. It'll never happen again. It wasn't even a year later, and it happened again. So please don't drive with anything on the dashboard. Not to mention that anything on the dashboard now becomes a flying object inside the cab of the vehicle when you do get in an accident. So that metal, aluminum, sharp-sided clipboard now is flying through there at your head when you get in a motor vehicle accident. So don't drive with anything on the dashboard. Big pet peeve of mine. Leave at least 3 seconds between you and the car in front of you. That gives you plenty of time to anticipate and being able to recognize that you need to stop or make an emergency maneuver. And how can you tell what 3 seconds between you and the car in front of you is? You can, as you pass a stationary object like a telephone pole, you count to 3 seconds. And if you've made it before that, then you need to back off. If the telephone pole is still there, you haven't reached the telephone pole, then you're doing fine. Stay out of blind spots. All vehicles have some blind spots. We've talked about mirror adjustments to make sure that you're reducing the amount of blind spots that you have. But you also, if you know there are blind spots, then and you're pacing somebody on the freeway, like if you're driving on the freeway and you got your cruise control set, and it puts you right next to a car with the same setting on the cruise control, but you're in their blind spot, speed up or slow down so they can see you, so you're not just hanging out in that blind spot. And this is really important with those bigger trucks. You can see that their blind spots are quite large. And here's a little trick that you may not know. If you can't see the driver in the side mirrors, like when you're behind that semi-truck, if you look at their side mirror and you can't see the driver, then the driver can't see you. So if you're right behind the vehicle and you can't see the rear view mirrors, then he can't see you either, or she can't see you either. So stay out of their blind spots. That's super dangerous. The next section that we're going to talk about is trailering. And I know that not everybody is going to be driving a vehicle with a trailer behind it. And let me just say up front, if you are asked to drive a trailer and you've never done that, you've not been checked out on it, it's your responsibility to say, I'm not comfortable with that, I haven't been trained on it, and take that opportunity to learn how to do it. We're going to watch a couple videos. I'm not a trailering expert. I found some pretty good videos about trailering, just the basics, and no stretch of the imagination are we going to be demonstrating or making you proficient at backing a trailer by watching the videos. And this is not going to be part of the behind the wheel scenarios. So this is going to be something that you're going to have to learn at the park or not do. But we do want to talk about defensive driving, and we want to talk about trailering a little bit. So let's get into the first video.
So you bought a pickup truck, but you've never hitched anything to the back of it. Well, it's about time to change that. Today, I'll be walking you through everything you need to know to tow a trailer. The first step in towing a trailer is to know your numbers. Finding out your specific towing number should be done at the dealership when you buy your truck, though this info is also available in your owner's manual or online. You'll need to find out your tow rating, your gross vehicle weight rating or GVWR, your gross combined weight rating or GCWR, your gross axle rating, and the vehicle's curb weight.
Now keep in mind that your tow rating does not compensate for a full load of passengers and cargo, so always make sure you account for the actual weights being loaded into your truck.
To make sure you don't exceed your combined weight rating, add together the gross vehicle weight and gross trailer weight, being sure to include all passengers and cargo. If that number is less than the GCWR, you're good to go. For the GVWR, add together the gross vehicle weight and the tongue weight of the trailer, which is usually 9 to 15% of the gross trailer weight. If those two numbers together are less than your GVWR, you're good to go. Finding the proper hitch depends on your vehicle and your trailer. You'll need to know what size your hitch receiver is, and you'll need to know the size of ball you need for the trailer. In our case, we have a 2-inch hitch receiver, which is what you'll find on nearly every single half-ton pickup truck from the factory. And for our trailer, we need a 2-inch ball. Once you have your hitch, fit it into the receiver and make sure to put the kingpin in place to hold it.
We are using an adjustable hitch that allows you to quickly change ball size and height. To keep our car carrier sitting nice and flat, we have the hitch at its lowest setting.
When it comes time to actually hook up, there are many things to consider. First, it is always best to have a second set of eyes spotting you from behind. Even though backup cameras make hooking up trailers so much easier than it used to be, having a friend is always best. Back your vehicle into the trailer so that the hitch ball sits directly underneath the ball housing. So once your truck is backed into your trailer and your hitch ball is right underneath the housing, you need to lower your trailer onto the truck. As it goes down, just watch to make sure, but the housing should fit right over the ball. So keep on cranking it down until the weight is off of your jack foot, like so. Then you need to close your hitch ball lock. Now on this trailer, you gotta pull up and push forward. Different trailers are different types of locks, but there is one thing you can always do. Put your hand underneath and you can feel the collar on the actual trailer grabbing onto the hitch ball. Then you take your cotter pin and fit it in there like that, just to make sure that she's locked on. So now your trailer is locked onto your ball, you need to stow your jack foot. Now on this trailer, you just gotta crank it all the way up. But on a lot of trailers, the foot is actually hinged so you can rotate it to store it. Once your foot is all the way up, you need to connect your safety chains. And there's one rule to remember with the chains, and that is to always cross them. So find which chain is connected to which side and go to the opposite side on the pickup truck. Just like that. So this makes sure that if your trailer ever did pop off, the chains create a cradle which will catch the tongue of your trailer so it's not dragging on the road. Now the last step is to hook up your lights. Now, most modern day pickup trucks have 7 and 4 pin connectors. In this case, we're using a 7-pin connector. So it just fits in there like that, and there's actually a groove on one side, so there's only one way it can fit in. Now, once your lights are hooked up, make sure you double check them. If you do have any issues, pick up some dielectric grease, which you can get from most big box stores or auto parts stores, and just hit both ends of that connection. That will make sure that everything works properly. Weight balance on your trailer is very important as it affects your tongue weight. You want your tongue weight to be 9 to 15% of the gross trailer weight, because a lot of tongue weight will pull your rear suspension down, causing your nose to lift, and that is no good. As a general rule of thumb, you want your truck and trailer to both be sitting nice and flat when you're all done hooking up. To correct for too much or too little tongue weight, you can move your load to either in front or behind the trailer's axle. When loading the trailer, your best bet is to load the majority of the weight right over the axle. So what is the easiest way to check for neutral weight balance? It's to drive your truck. The steering shouldn't feel lighter than usual, and the trailer should not want to sway all over the road. So finally, you're just about ready to go, but there's one last thing to do. You always need to do a circle check before pulling out. Walk around your entire rig and go over everything one last time. Are the lights good? Are the tires properly inflated? Is the hitch on right? If everything looks good, you're ready to go. So now you've got your trailer hooked up and you're on the road, but what about actually driving? Well, there is a lot to know about driving with a trailer. First things first, you're gonna wanna get proper tow mirrors. If you don't have proper tow mirrors, just take your regular mirrors and adjust them quite a ways out because you wanna be able to see the back end of your trailer.
Now, the law says that you have to be able to see the car directly behind you while towing. So if you have a large enclosed trailer that blocks your rearward view, you actually have to get tow mirrors.
One of the most important rules, in my opinion anyways, is to never hurry. Now that's actually a good rule to follow when you're driving anything, but it's especially important when you have a trailer on. It's when you're hurrying, it's when you're getting stressed out, that's when accidents happen. Taking corners can also be a little tricky with a trailer, and there's one thing you need to remember. You always need to take every corner nice and wide. And while you're cornering, you want to also be paying attention to where your trailer's wheels are because you don't want to clip a light post or a curb. Another important part to towing safely is braking. Thanks to that added weight on the back of your truck, it's gonna take you longer to stop, so you're gonna wanna leave plenty of distance to the car in front of you. As a general rule, I like to leave between 3 and 4 car lengths, but it depends on how much weight you're hauling. If you're really pushing your truck, you're gonna wanna leave even more distance than that. Most heavy trailers come with some kind of internal braking system. And here on our car carrier, we have electric trailer brakes, which are operated by an integrated trailer brake controller found up here in the dash in the Tundra. The operation of trailer brake controllers is always a little bit different, but the goal is the same, and that is to have that trailer helping you to stop safely. So the first thing you need when you're setting up your brake controller is a nice empty piece of road. So you bought a pickup.
Okay, we're going to stop the video there. The trailer brake, like they said, they're different ones operate differently, so you'll have to learn that at the park with the specific trailer that you're using. So there's a lot more to trailering than meets the eye. And first of all, you know, I don't know about you, but I was completely lost with those numbers. But that's okay. Just know that you need to know your numbers. And the biggest thing is that you're not putting too much weight on the trailer and you're not putting too heavy of a trailer on your truck. So you just need to make sure you know the weights and take the time to make sure they match what the trailer can hold and what the truck can haul. We have had accidents occur because we've overloaded the trailer. We have bent axles on the trailers. We've had wheels come off trailers because of sway. It wasn't loaded right. It is your responsibility to make sure the trailer is loaded properly. So know how much you can tow and how much your cargo weighs. Properly secure your load with the proper weight distribution. You want the trailer to be flat, using the proper tie downs. You know, if you're hauling a 500-pound item and you're using a tie down that's rated for 20 pounds, that's probably not going to work out. And then driver is responsible for the load. That's what I was saying earlier, where just a few minutes ago, that, you know, if you're driving the vehicle, then you are responsible to make sure that everything is secure and correct. And then know your braking system. Some of our vehicles are going to have an electronic braking system, trailer braking system, and some are not. So the next thing is practice. Make sure that you practice backing the trailer up. That's usually the thing that drives people have the hardest time with. So make sure that you practice before you get someplace. Here at Inniswood, we use a dump trailer quite a bit to haul material over to Kurtz Brothers. And when you're dumping the load over at Kurtz Brothers, you got to back it in to a certain area. People are watching. So we always have our staff practice that ahead of time. If they've not done it before, then we're going to have them get used to the vehicle, get used to the trailer, make sure they know how to operate it, and get some practice backing it in. Take your time. Slow and steady wins the race. And, you know, even though there might be people waiting on you and it takes a while for you to do it, it doesn't matter. Take your time. Make sure that you don't do something wrong because you're rushing. Shorter trailers are actually more difficult to handle and back up than longer trailers. And that's because they can travel faster amounts of distance sideways over the length of distance moved backwards. So they're kind of squirrely. So be careful and just go slow. Watch your trailer swing. This is a big one, and we're going to show a video that highlights that here in a minute. But that's the back end of the trailer swings out past the side of the vehicle when you're making a 90-degree turn. And then watch your inside turning radius. Now this is a pet peeve of mine in a defensive driving situation, whether you're using a trailer or not. Most people nowadays don't actually turn when they're turning left or turning right. They tend, especially left, they tend to cut the corner at an angle, real sharp angle. Instead of actually going through the intersection and turning left, they cut through the intersection at an angle. What ends up happening is they end up driving through the oncoming traffic stop bar. So like they might be turning left and going through the left-hand turn lane as they're doing that for the traffic in the intersection. So that's a problem without a trailer, but when you have a trailer, that's even a bigger problem because that trailer is going to make you cut that corner even tighter. And we have had an accident where somebody was turning in going through a parking lot turned left down an aisle of the parking lot, cut the corner too tight, and ripped a bumper off of a car with the trailer. So, you know, this is a big deal and something that you need to be cognizant of. And that's, the gentleman in the video talked about making sure that you take all turns pretty wide.
So something that first-time RV buyers are afraid of or intimidated by is backing up a trailer. Some people have never backed up a trailer, period, in their lives, or they've never backed up a trailer of this size. On RV forums and RV Facebook groups, the advice that's always given, that I see time and time again, is to go to an open parking lot, set up some cones, and practice. So the first thing that we're going to go through or explain is tail swing. Tail swing is the amount of the back end of the trailer that comes out when you make a sharp turn. It's usually 1 foot of tail swing for every 3 feet of trailer behind the axles. So the center line of the axles all the way back to the back bumper. That part of the trailer is going to swing out when you make a sharp turn.
You'll be able to see how much that trailer goes over that line. And just think about if you were coming out of a gas station with a gas bar, see how far that trailer sticks out over that line.
Okay, so from this point, you can see how much of this trailer is now hanging over the line to the left side just by making a right-hand turn. As she continues forward, the back end of the trailer will continue to stay to the left side of this line. This is something that you have to be careful of if you go into a gas station. If you're up close to the pump and then you fill up with gas or diesel and then you go to pull away, the back end of the trailer could and most likely will contact a stationary object like a gas pump, a car, a concrete post. Going forward. Straighten the wheels up. That's good. Okay, so behind me I have a lane set up. These cones, they are all set 12 feet apart from each other. This lane is about 100 feet long. This is going to be the straight line back. The straight line backing sounds pretty basic, pretty easy, but you'd be surprised how many people struggle with this. The idea is to back in a straight line from the start of the cones all the way down to the end till your front bumper clears the end. Okay, so to do the straight line back from inside the truck, what you want to do, obviously, is keep an eye on your mirrors on both sides. As you back up, put one hand on the top of the wheel. And what you're going to do is drive straight back through the cones. With your hand at the top of the wheel, if the trailer starts to drift one way or the other, left or right, you will steer towards the problem. So for example, I'm going to let the trailer come out to the left a little bit. Okay, so now the trailer is going out to the left. So with one hand at the top of the wheel, I'm going to steer towards that problem. As I back up, the problem will correct itself. When you're in a straight line again with the trailer, get the truck back in line with the trailer. Nothing to it. Just watch your mirrors on both sides as you back through. Again, I'm steering towards the problem and keeping the truck in a straight line with the trailer. I'm only making small movements in the steering wheel, to the left and to the right, maybe a quarter to half turn, no more than that. Okay, so I've moved the cones around and I've reset them to do what's called the reverse lane change. So we've got two lanes.
So we're going to stop that video there and talk about some of the things that came out of that. So back in the trailer, you know, again, it's that travel trailer is pretty long. It's going to be easier to back one of those up actually than it is to back up a utility trailer. But they all operate the same way. So when backing, hand on top of the wheel, steer into the problem. So if your trailer's going to the left, top of the wheel, you're going to turn it towards the left. You don't need big movements. It's just slight movements. And then once it starts to straighten out, then you can straighten the truck out. If back of the front tire is pointing to the left, the trailer will go to the left. If it's pointing to the right, the trailer will go to the right. So if you're looking out your window and you can see the back of the front tire is pointing towards the driver's side, then the trailer will go left. It's kind of opposite of what you would think. So those things will kind of, if you can remember those things, it will be helpful when you're backing up a trailer. The other thing to remember is it's almost impossible to back up any trailer perfectly straight without making adjustments. And you saw the gentleman in the video moving his hand back and forth almost the entire time to keep that trailer in a straight line. So you're going to end up doing that even more if you have a small utility trailer. But remember, slow and steady wins the race. Okay, we're going to switch gears again into winter driving, and this is the last section of the class. And not all of you are going to be here during winter driving, but again, it's something that I think we need to talk about, and all of our employees are going through this, so even though you may be a seasonal and not be here in the wintertime, our rest of our staff will need to hear this too, and you can use it in your personal life. So we're going to watch a bunch of videos, some of what not to do, and some of what you can do. So let's get into it. So these are some just some accidents of winter driving, and most of it is related to speed. You know, speed is a big problem on dry roads, but speed is an extremely huge problem on icy and snowy roads. And I really wouldn't want to be that guy. Not a lot you can do when the salt truck is spinning out of control. So like I said, when you're driving in the winter, slow down. That's the most important thing. Speed is the biggest problem when driving on snowy and icy roads. Slow down. With that, increase the distance between you and the vehicle in front of you. That makes sense because it takes longer for you to stop. Even if you've slowed down, it's still going to take you longer to stop, so keep that distance larger. And then I like to say, if the roads are wet, drive like it's snowing. If the roads are snowy, then drive like it's icy. And if the roads are icy, don't drive. Now, I know that we can't do that. There are times where we're going to be at work and we have to drive if the roads are icy, but that may not be the time to run to the store to get supplies or materials for a project. If we don't have to drive out of the park, then let's not drive out of the park. And then if you're not working and the roads are icy and you don't have to go anywhere, I would recommend that you don't. Now the next video that we're going to watch is from Seattle, and if you're not familiar, Seattle gets a lot of rain, but they don't get a lot of snow and ice. So most of the folks out there are a little clueless when it comes to driving on snow and ice, and this is what can be the results of that. So this is taken from a mountain. Seattle is actually pretty big. Roads are icy. their car is completely brakes on, sliding down the gutter into the next line. But if you see this going on in these road conditions, there's really not a lot you're going to be able to do, even good drivers. Brakes are on and you're just sliding sideways. You can hear the fire department behind the clock out. I mean, like this guy, you see all that fire. Heads up! All right, you get the picture there. So the next video that we're going to watch is probably the most egregious example of what not to do while driving on icy roads. You'll see. So the roads aren't that bad, but you're looking at a downhill, cars sliding around the gutter, just gonna hit other cars. And this is where it kind of gets crazy. Please don't ever bail out of the car, because this isn't over yet. This is a big problem right here. Almost get sandwiched between the two cars. So please, the safest thing for you to do, you're not in high speeds here, stay in the car with your seatbelt on and you're going to be okay. Please don't ever try to bail out of the car. Okay, along with snow comes snow plowing. We did want to talk about snow plow safety a little bit as part of our defensive driving and winter driving program. If you're not familiar with a plow, you should need to be checked out on plow and show proficiency before you are actually going out to plow. There is an art to plowing, so they should be teaching you how to do that and not just telling you to go out and do that. Okay, so when transporting the plow, it should be in the up position and locked so it doesn't come down on you. You need to tilt the blade to the right or towards the curb, and that way if you hit the curb with the plow, it's going to send the truck into the curb instead of out into traffic. Make sure you're not blocking your headlights. Most of our plows have auxiliary lights on the plow itself, so that we can use those lights instead of our factory headlights. And then take it slow. 40 miles max transport, 15 miles an hour max plowing. You know, these are from the industry, snowplow industry standards. So, you know, that is what the manufacturers recommend. And then know your areas that you're going to be plowing and be alert for snow-covered objects. And those could be posts, they can be hydrants, they can be parking blocks. So all of those things, make sure you're aware of what's in your parking lot. All of our snow plowing vehicles should have a flashing amber light to make you more visible. Look twice before backing up. For some reason, the public likes to get right in our way. So we may have a parking lot half done and they have all these clear spots and you're working on the other half, but for some reason they want to park in that other half. And a lot of times you'll go by, you'll push snow to one end, and there'll already be a car pulled into a parking spot right behind you and you don't notice it right away. So make sure that you look twice before backing up. Be patient with the public, expect them to do what you don't want them to do. Expect the unexpected, right? That's part of our mantra for defensive driving. Wear your seatbelt, of course, and obey all other traffic laws, just like any other time, even though you're going slow. make sure you're wearing your seatbelt. We have reached the end of the indoor classroom section of our defensive driving program, so let's just do a quick little summary of defensive driving. Make safe and legal decisions. Create stress-free space in and around your vehicle. Do not drive in a way that negatively affects other drivers. In other words, don't drive to impose your will on others. Use common sense, courtesy, and cooperation. And recognize hazardous behaviors and road conditions. Stay focused. And that's it. Just remember to be safe, take your time, and get home safely. Thanks for your attention.